welcome to another episode of Tech Talk Dudes. Welcome, Pim, and glad we are here back again for a new episode. And I heard we are going to talk about over a new feature, which is part of the identity lifecycle management. And I'm curious, Pim, what that might be, what it will be.
Yes,
so show us the money.
Thanks, Ronnie, for the introduction. It's good to be back again. Yes, today I want to talk to you about a new feature within the Identity Governance Suite within the Azure AD called Lifecycle Workflows. Not sure if you have heard of it before.
To be honest, I'm quite familiar in the identity governance space, but that's more on the access packages and the entitlement management, and that seems to be also a kind of a workflow. Lifecycle workflows, that might be about lifecycle of identities. Is that something close by?
Yeah, it's close by. So it's Lifecycle Workflows is the new name of the feature. And what it can do for you is it can run workflows after identities are being provisioned within your environment or when people need to be offboarded. So it can help you in the onboarding and offboarding of your end user accounts. So imagine, and I will show that to you in a very short demo following up. What it can help you with is, let's say you are creating accounts either by an import via HR, an import via CSV files, or you are still manually creating accounts, which I wouldn't really advise you to do, but nevertheless that happens. Those accounts are preset with particular attributes and particular data, and most of the times we still see the accounts are either created. You want to have them created disabled because maybe you're creating them 1 month up front of the join date of that end user account. You're not adding them yet to groups, and the groups differ per department. So for that, you always need to take extra actions. And some organizations are using the copy account from option. I would strongly advise you not to, because that's literally from a security perspective, the worst thing you can ever do, because what you see is, like, I joined, I think 7 years ago for the company which I'm working for today. I gathered some rights in the past 7 years. If you would copy over those rights because my function is being replaced by someone else, that doesn't mean that new user actually does need the same permissions as I have today. So that's why copy from is really wrong. And with lifecycle workflows, you don't need to do that anymore. So the difference in here is, when you are going to create the account just blank, just with the properties like department, manager, job title, street name, office name, etc. That's what you put on the account, and then you configure the employee hire date and leave date time, which I will come back to in a minute, what those values actually are. You configure them on the account, and then you let lifecycle workflows. You configure lifecycle workflows, and you let those workflows do the management for you. So based on if you are in department marketing, you could be added to a group called Teams group called marketing. But you also get maybe an M365 E3 license, because that's what marketing needs. And on the other hand, we maybe have people working in IT who need the same. They will be member of a different team. So Teams group will be called maybe IT. One thing it can do for you, and it will help the onboarding process itself, because you can use the very familiar feature in Azure AD called temporary access pass, whereby you can automatically issue temporary access passes on the day the user joins the organization to the manager of the user, so that that user can have a smooth, and if you want to, my advice, a passwordless onboarding.
Yeah.
It's really a long explanation, but that's in short what it can do for you in the onboarding process. And I will show the offboarding, because otherwise it will take a lot of time. I will show the offboarding in a real life demo, because that makes more sense.
But actually, Pim, this is very helpful if you have different kind of personas or profiles or roles within your organization. I can imagine that you have kind of profiles in your lifecycle workflows, make a distinction to the various departments, roles, etc. And based on that, on a particular extension, that particular workflow will kick in and do all the tasks in an automated way. So also less labor, but also less error prone, I would say. So that sounds to me very, very beneficial for a joiner and leaver process to keep that tight and straight process.
Yeah, totally agreed. Well, for mover, there is movers are not within lifecycle workflows today. And for that, you could either use an access package, which you can today dynamically assign based on queries. That would be for the mover an option, or just based on requests. So like you already explained, and I think we talked about it before, where you can just request an access package and then someone reviews, and then if that's approved, you will be added to the group. And actually,
the workflows are these coming with some templates, so you can kickstart your processes and customize it to your own needs, or do you have to build them from scratch? Because I would have better understanding how these kind of workflows works and what is the logic behind it, and what all the technologies are involved to take benefit from it.
Yeah, really valid question. Let me I will share the screen, because I think that will explain a bit more what's in there today. So once you go, if you're in the Azure AD portal, and yes, I'm still not using the Entra portal. I still need to switch.
Why is that?
It's just a personal preference.
Okay.
Anything to do with the Entra portal.
Yeah, we can't argue when it comes to taste. So okay.
Something with habits.
Yeah.
Once you go to the identity governance part within Azure AD, there is a new option called Lifecycle Workflows, which you can see here on the left hand. Beneath actually the entitlement stuff, which we just talked about, which you mentioned on the start of this call, you can click on Lifecycle Workflows, and within here you see some minor details in the overview. You can see the workflows you've configured. You can see if you deleted workflows. There are custom extensions, which are logic apps actually, which you can easily add a custom extension, which will automatically create a logic app for you with the logic already. Some of the logic is already in there. Those are the main important parts of lifecycle workflows within the public preview as it is released right now. Now there are some main general settings. Before we're going to talk about the tasks you just mentioned, there are some main important settings to be configured on the end user accounts. First of all, we recommend you to use to configure the preferred language setting on end user accounts, because workflows can send emails, and it will always prefer the preferred language setting on end user accounts. And based on that language configured on that particular user account, it will send out the email. Now on the Learn pages is mentioned which languages are supported natively by the product. So you would be able to pick one from there and configure that on your user accounts. So that will be actually step one. Step two, which is important, is to make sure that employee leave date time and employee hire date are configured on the accounts, and that's the source of the account. So keep in mind that if you are going to configure employee hire date for hybrid accounts, you need to pick an attribute in your AD Same for employee leave date time. Stamp it with the particular value of the joiner date and the leaver date. And then it will you need to set up some custom rules within Azure AD Connect and Cloud Sync to get that value actually synced over.
Because otherwise the workflow doesn't kick in for that particular account, or will just broken as part of the process.
Yeah, basically, if you would create a workflow and in here you would be able to select one. And for this example, I will just do one because a lot of it is employee hire date. There is no going around that. So that's a mandatory attribute for things to work if you want to use them scheduled.
Yeah, you can set an offset if it's 7 days or even it's closer nearby. Then right.
Yeah, correct. So you can use 1 or you can use 10, or you would be able to use to say 3, for example, 3 days before the employee hire date. This is actually going to run. So that's important to know. If you want to know more on how to configure that for hybrid environments, I've written a long blog about it, so you would be able to go back to that and to check it. And the last thing which is important is that the manager needs to be configured for particular actions, particular tasks.
Yeah.
And the manager also needs to have an email.
Yeah, must be email enabled, and I assume there will be also a second approval in case of the first approver is not available, holiday, sick, or whatsoever. Or
no, that's not in here. Let's quickly go to tasks. So if you choose a template, you can configure the name, the description, and as just mentioned, you can configure the days from event. That's in case of joiner employee hire date. If we go to the scope, I can just say, as I mentioned earlier, only for department marketing or only for department IT. Or what I could say, only if company name equals something, which is a very bad example. But you can filter here on the details which you get from the provisioning of the end user account when they are created at first.
Yeah, you can also make a distinction when it comes to IT, that it will be just the security analyst or the IT admin or administrator or the IT manager. And I assume the IT manager can or have different needs and different applications or permissions than an IT admin, for example.
Exactly. You could indeed go very granular. I would recommend to start with high level.
Keep it simple.
The main things you need to do, and don't make it too complex, because if you want to build your complete end-to-end story in here, that takes you a lot of time. While the feature you can actually immediately benefit from the feature. So that's the scoping stuff which you have in here. Then you have review tasks, and those are the actual tasks which are executed by the workflow once it kicks in. And in here we got, as you can see, several tasks, all related to the category joiner, because I'm in one of the joiner workflows. And as you can see, I can add user to groups, disable or enable the user account. I can remove the user from groups. I can say generate a tab and send an email, send a welcome email. For those tasks, it's important that the manager is configured and that the manager is also mail enabled, because the manager is going to save an email, so there is a check on it. Can I send that email? Because otherwise I'm not going to send it and I will just fail.
And these tasks you're showing us, are these built-in tasks, or are these tasks which are pre-populated or pre-created by yourself?
No, those are all pre-populated by Microsoft.
Okay.
Every task in here, which you can see, and you can, if you want to do something custom, you can literally go nuts. So as far as your fantasy and your imagination goes, you can build stuff in here, because we can, as I just already mentioned, we can run custom task extensions. And a custom task extension is, for example, a logic app, which I've created, which is, for example, in my example, which I will demo in a minute, enable the account in the on-prem AD, attach a mailbox, and set the description so that I know that the workflow has hit the user, for example. it's a very straightforward example, but you can do way much more things with logic apps. So you can talk to an API, you can send out an email. You would even be able, and that's something I demoed with Jan Bakker on Experts Live last time, about sending the tab to the personal mobile of the end user who is joining. So you can literally go nuts. And then once you're ready, you can go to review and create. And in here there is a checkbox enable schedule. And once you hit the schedule, this checkbox, it's scheduled in your environment, and you can then it runs by default each 3 hours. And that's something you can configure to a minimum of 1 hour. So that it runs each 1 hour in your tenant. And then things are happening automatically. If you're going to test it out, I would recommend you to first disable this, let it unchecked, create a workflow, because you can also run it on demand.
Yeah, exactly.
Because that's what we can do. That's what we can do here. So this is, for example, a random a workflow I created, which I used in my blog, which is enabling the account and enabling the mailbox. One simple example is, this is the account. This is an account of Peter Pan. That account is already synchronized because it has already been created, but no details are, and it's not a member of anything. I can select the account. What I will, can I show that? Yeah, I think I can go to the user to see that it's disabled as well on this end. In case you don't believe me, just a joke. So it's disabled in here. And then I can say run the workflow, and then it will. This is indeed an old flow which I tried, and then it's running, and then we need to wait a second, because what this will do right now, it will trigger the workflow, which will trigger the logic app. If I'm not mistaken, that should be this workflow. We can see that it is running. This workflow, this logic app will trigger a runbook on Azure Automation, because with Azure Automation, I can run stuff in my on-premises environment, as I'm using hybrid identities in this example.
Yeah.
From here, I run this actually this workbook, and we can see that it is running, and I run that on my hybrid worker account, on my hybrid worker group. And as you can see, there is one hybrid worker in here, which was last seen 31 minutes ago, but that should be alive. And then in here, I would see that my account is right now enabled by Lifecycle Workflows onboarding flow on, and that's, I think, not yet a minute ago. So in here, we can now see this account has been created, but more importantly, it's configured with an email. The description is set.
Some other groups, group memberships.
I would be able to. I have not done that because my environment is just for demos. I would be able to add it to on-premises groups if I wanted to. I can literally do magic with logic apps if I wanted to.
Yeah. But it all starts with the account provisioning in Azure AD, and from there it will be synchronized back, and then by using the lifecycle workflows, you will enable the account, put membership as email enabling, licenses assignments, everything which your imagination and can be done through the tasks.
Yeah, correctly. Yeah, because logic apps, it's the magic of logic apps. Yeah, this is just one flow. If I would do the next steps, if I would run the second flow, I need to synchronize right now because that account needs to be updated. Of course, I'm changing things on the source which need to be synced. So I need to of course, if I would go back to the user Peter Pan right now, because the account sourced from on-prem, it's still the same.
Yeah, sorry.
it's still disabled. So once the sync has run, we will see that the flag changes. Well, we can already see that it has been updated here in AD Connect in this case, with the flag set to true instead of false. An alias has been added, etc. And if I would do a refresh in here, I would need to say, yeah, there's always a delay of a few minutes or a few seconds. In here, we will then see that this account is going from account status disabled to enabled. And then the second workflow can run. And the second workflow in this case is adding the licenses. And the last one is actually sending out a temporary access pass in an email to the manager. It's I actually all the onboarding steps I've written. I've published 2 blogs. The first one is about pre-configuring all the prerequisites for lifecycle workflows, and the second one is all about those 3 onboarding workflows. And you, of course, need to tweak them and fine-tune them for your own environment.
Yeah, and is there also kind of cascaders that if one workflow has been executed successfully, that you are able to trigger a next one to? Yeah, I can imagine that the lead time, depending on the schedules, you want to go through as quick as possible when a new user is joining the company, that you will hit all the workflows as soon as possible to be able to be productive, I would say.
Yeah. So to be short, and that's with MIM, it's the same recommendation Microsoft does. So the first workflow runs. In this case, we only have a filter on, for example, department in my example. The second one has a different scoping filter, because this scoping filter is actually looking at, is the account enabled? Meaning, is that first workflow run? Because if the account enabled flag is still false, the first flow hasn't run yet. So I'm waiting for that first flow to trigger before the second one can start. There is no relation in the platform between workflows. So I'm unfortunately not able to say, if the second workflow is running, please check if the first workflow is already ran for this user. It doesn't work like that. So you need to build your own scoping logic.
That makes sense, because what you showed us, the account has been enabled, the synchronization took place, but still not updated and reflecting in the Azure portal, and that's always tricky when it comes to timing. If timing is that, you can't rely on it. So this is the most secure way to make sure that the workflows will be successful.
Yeah, actually, let's say if for whatever reason a workflow has been missed, actually the first workflow has been missed, it means the last 3 won't trigger as well, because this one is the first trigger. The second one is looking at account enabled, so is rule 100 run, and 200 is actually looking at has this user a particular service plan ID assigned? So does it actually have, in this case, an Exchange license? Because I'm sending out an email and I need to know, can I send out that email? Because otherwise my tasks fail. So you need scope details are really important for who it will run, but also when can it run? Yeah.
So that's also a key takeaway, I would say, is to overthink your process, how your dependencies look like, and then kind of make a design for all these workflows fitting in. That's also some preparation up front, I would say.
Yeah, totally correct. So if you want to go work with this, the best advice I actually can give you is, and I can speak out of personal experience already.
You did it the hard way.
First, open Visio and just say, okay, what will be my onboarding flow? What do I have right now? What am I doing right now? And how would that look like in workflows? And then once that's on paper, you can start building it. If you do it the other way around, you're going to just start to use this product. My advice, my personal experience is you're going to change it a lot of times, which results also in a lot of versions. And I think, not sure if I got a good example in here. This one already has 15 versions, for example, and that's just a test. And in the version history is really important, by the way. You can already see what was the change, what was configured in this particular version. So you would be able to see what was there in version number 15 and what was there in version number 14, etc. So
when it comes to versions, Pim, is it just for audit trail, or is it also by purpose you can revert some changes and going back to the previous one?
Yeah, so most of it would be for you can use it for both reasons. So one of it would be an audit trail, but secondly, it would also be a way to revert to what was there previously. If you made a mistake.
Yeah, okay.
Well,
So it's
yeah.
not like SharePoint. If you go to a document that you can say browsing the version history and revert back to version number 13, for example. Now you can keep track of the changes and then just reapply the previous change and do the yeah. Okay, gotcha.
For now, that's the experience.
Yeah. Hey, this is great, man. This is really great. I believe this is a lot of interest for organizations which has a lot to do with joiner and leaver process because yeah.
It was one of the features which was a little bit lacking in Azure AD. There was no real solution for it besides building something yourself. And building something yourself is, of course, if you work for a particular company, that's great because you can build and you can use. But if you work for different customers, every customer wants something else. So there are so many demands in the market, and this is a good. A really good start for a first version of Lifecycle Workflows. So, yeah, which a lot of customers are able to use in practice already. So that's great stuff.
Yeah, well, it's the entire identity governance will definitely get a boost with this new feature. So
Yeah,
looks good. Future is bright.
Yeah. So with that being said, if you're going to use this feature, so just a short summary. First put things on paper, and then start your implementation. Don't start scheduling workflows immediately. My advice. And use the run on demand feature to try it out. And put in execution conditions if there are dependencies on workflows, so that you are sure that the right order of workflows is followed. And with that, you can even configure workflows to run at the same day. And then the first workflow will go the first hour, and the other workflow will go at the next schedule. So with that being said, I think those are some good tips and tricks to get you started.
And when getting started, it's part of the identity governance capabilities of Azure AD. So assuming you need to have an Azure AD, at least an Azure AD P2 license, isn't it?
Yeah. For each user in your environment needs a P2 license. That's the rule of licensing in here.
Okay. Hey, Pim, on behalf of the listeners and watchers today, I really appreciate your broad and brief explanation about this great feature as part of identity governance. So thank you very much. And looking forward to our next episode of TechkTalk Dudes.
Yeah. Thanks for listening as well, Ronnie, for listening to me, and thanks to our watchers, of course, for watching. Stay tuned for more, and see you next time.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.